Okay, so in this video we're checking out the EMAX Babyhawk II HD. So this one looks completely different from the original Babyhawk, and obviously it's got the DJI system on here, so that's why it's got the HD in the name. This is probably the first in this class of a 3.5-inch micro. So these have the new Avon 3.5-inch micro props. Don't exactly know what the pitch of the prop is, but it's pretty quiet for the size and fairly efficient. Got some pretty long flights on this. So it comes with 1404 eco motors, and these are 3700 kV, and this is designed to fly on 4S. There's two PID profiles in the flight controller. The first one is for flying without a GoPro, and the second one is for flying with a GoPro. So obviously as the weight changes, you're going to want to switch to a different profile. Looks like there's some screw hole mounts here for the GoPro mount. They did not send this along, or the GoPro mount along with this, so I did not fly with a GoPro or a naked GoPro, but this should be able to handle a full-size GoPro no problem, versus a lot of 3-inch micros probably can't handle a full-size GoPro. The reason is I don't have that. This is a pretty early version of this, and this video is probably not going to be out for. It's probably not going to be released for about another month or so after Chinese New Year. But I have flown it a fair amount, and to be honest, it's kind of difficult to describe how this is compared to a lot of other micros out there. But let me just go over the frame and the design first. So you have a 4mm bottom plate, a little over 4mm, like 4.15 millimeters. Pretty robust bottom plate. Obviously, you got a lot of bracing here between the front arms and the back arms. So this is designed to be flown freestyle and can be bashed quite a bit. There's not a whole lot of motor protection here. You can see, could be more. I didn't really crash it a whole lot. So, I had a couple of minor crashes, but I think if you definitely have a direct hit here, it's possible the motor bell might take some damage. More likely the props are going to absorb a lot of that, so maybe that's why they shaved it down a bit. 2mm top plate. You have some M2 standoffs here. I think these are about 20mm or 25mm high. You have an all-in-one flight controller here at the bottom, whip style, 25 amps, F4. Has a little plastic shield there at the bottom, so instead of conformal coating, which it might have, it's a little plastic shield for moisture because it is designed to land on the bottom and have the battery on top. That's why they did that. And the USB port is in a good spot. It's nice and accessible. They're running the XT30 through the front here. It might get in the way of the GoPro, so kind of depends on what kind of battery you're using. Kind of wish that this battery slot was a little bit further back here, because the battery does kind of stick out in the back here a little bit more, especially if you have a GoPro or something in here. But if not, then it should balance nicely right in the middle if you use like an 854, which is what it was designed for. The Vista is hanging here and the back here under the top plate, and there's a little piece of carbon right here that's on this back standoff that holds the Vista antenna and also kind of supports the bottom part of the Vista. So there is a little bit of a gap there between the Vista and the flight controller. Should be fine, I think, unless you have a complete collapse of the top plate, then the Vista will definitely bash into the flight controller, but that's probably not likely unless you have a really bad crash, because it doesn't weigh a whole lot. The geometry of the frame is kind of interesting. So it's about 155 millimeters motor to motor. The width is about 125 millimeters wide and about only 90 millimeters front to back. So it's a kind of a squished frame. Obviously, they're kind of targeting this for freestyle, not necessarily for racing. It's not really a dead cat or anything like that. You can't really see where the CG is, but the arms, obviously, they don't have like the typical dead cat style where basically the arms come out sort of sideways here. So this is kind of more like a H style frame versus like an X style frame. And it flies pretty similarly to an H-style frame in terms of how the pitch feels on the pitch axis. Could use a little bit of firming up there on the eye term, I think, on the pitch axis, but it's a pretty minor detail. Really depends on how you fly and what kind of tune you want. If you're going to want a more precise tune, you're probably going to want to adjust it to your liking and maybe adjust the rates as well. Now, I flew this with the recommended 850 4S battery, and it kind of sits like this. I think it flies, in my opinion, it flies a little bit more better with the 4S 650, and you don't get that much of a hit in flight time. It flies a long time on the 850, like 7-8 minutes, and I'm totally fine with a 5-minute flight on the 650. That's totally acceptable to me, but it really depends what you want to go for. But here's the weight without anything on there. By the way, the battery strap's kind of torn up here because it's a little long if you use a smaller battery. Even though if you tuck it underneath the top plate there, and where the flight controller is, it still can kind of pop out and then get cut up by the props. So maybe they should go with a little bit shorter battery strap. With the 850, it was still plenty of battery strap and was still kind of hanging over. So they might change that. And by the way, this is kind of an early version, so any of these specs and things you see here might be changing. I don't know for sure. It's just really early. It's like maybe a month and a half or so before this is going to be released. So be sure to check the links down in the description for all the current specs, because they're probably going to update the product pages later. So keep that in mind. If you see anything different, let me know in the comments section. Anyway, it's 140.6 grams, no battery. With the 4S 850, we're coming in at 239. So yeah, with no GoPro, just the 4S 850, it's definitely under the 250 gram mark. And then with the 4S 650 coming in at 216.9. So if you throw a naked GoPro on here, including the weight of the mount, see, that could be another 30 grams or so. So yeah, I'm with a 4S 650, and if you can just get another 250 mark with a naked GoPro, I think that might work out. Obviously, I don't have time to test that, and I don't have the mount for that, but I may revisit this later with that. If you guys are interested, let me know in the comment section below. Now, as I said, the flight times were about 7 to 8 minutes on the 850 and about 5 minutes or so, 5.5 minutes on the 650, with some fairly aggressive freestyle flying, power loops, that kind of stuff. You can, I don't know, you might be able to get more if you go to like even a bigger battery, because it could probably even carry more battery. It's got plenty of power. So this is interesting because this is hard to categorize. It's hard to compare because there's nothing really in the 3.5 inch class currently other than the ProTech 35, which is really like a Cinewhoop. And that has completely different power setup and different weight. That's like way heavier. Has 2203 motors, not 1404 motors, and that's more for Cinewhoop flying necessarily for freestyle flying. So it's kind of a different category. It doesn't really compare well. And plus, I've never flown that one, so I don't know how that one compares to this one. There may be more 3.5 inch quads coming out later. And I think the reason they went with 3.5 inch versus 3 inch or 4 inch is you get the advantages of the bigger prop, which gives you more efficiency. So it's going to be more like a 4 inch in terms of efficiency and flight time. While you still have the agility of a 3 inch, not quite the same amount of agility, but if you go straight to a 4 inch, you don't quite have that agility of a 3 inch. So this is kind of a compromise between 3 inch and a 4 inch. And, that's why they went with 3.5 inch prop. Now, they're kind of going after like the feel of a 5 inch in a sub 250 class micro, which is fairly difficult to achieve. And while it does have a lot of freestyle abilities, it just doesn't have that weight where you can throw the quad with the power of the motors and then kill the throttle and then have it just float over an object while maintaining this momentum. And even it's just because it doesn't have the weight. Even at 250 grams on the nose, it just doesn't have the weight to carry its momentum over larger objects. So I think they're getting closer to that in terms of the feel, but without the weight, basically you need a lot more of the power in the motors to throw the quad, but then you're going to probably go over the 250 gram mark. So I don't think the power systems are quite there yet. Maybe in the future where maybe you can get some lighter say like 1404 or 1505 motors, and just get about overall letter set with a higher power to weight ratio to throw that quad over like a tree or something and do a split S, then you can get there. This doesn't quite have that same feel as a 5-inch, but it's getting there. I mean, I can see the potential and what they're trying to do here and their goal. But you know, it just doesn't really fit into any class. It's not a 3-inch. It doesn't feel like a 4-inch. It really is a kind of its own class. And so I'm going to have to wait and see how, you know, other 3.5-inch quads are definitely be coming out later, and kind of see how this compares later in terms of how this one is with ones that are coming in the future. So if you're interested in that, stay tuned. Probably going to have more of these kind of models coming up from other companies now that EMAX is kind of forged into the 3.5-inch class. You're going to probably see a lot more in the future. Anyway, I'm just going to show you a few more, I'm going to show you the narrated flight, one of my narrated flights, and then you probably saw some flight footage already on the screen. I'll throw a couple more flights down in the video description if you want to see additional flight footage. But I think, the jury's still kind of out in my opinion on this one. I'm sure all the other channels are going to hype this up. My feelings are I'm going to reserve judgment on this until I can see what other companies do, because this is they're forging into new territory. Maybe they're going to set the standard for this 3.5-inch class. Maybe someone else will come along and make something better. I like it. I like the fact that it flies with a lot of flight time. It has the agility of a 3-inch, while not quite the efficiency of a 4-inch, which is fine for me because I don't really like flying for 15 minutes, but 7 to 8 minutes is okay. Even 7 to 8 minutes is kind of long in my opinion. So 5 minutes on a 650 is just perfect for me. So it kind of really depends on what you're looking for. So it's kind of nice that they're having different models and different classes here to sort of fit the needs of different pilots. This might be great for you. It may not be great for you. But in terms of like how it compares to everything else, I'm going to reserve judgment on that for a future video. I'm sure more of these things are going to come out. And make sure you're subscribed, and you'll get more videos and notifications on that in the future, so you get an idea of what this looks like sometime down the road. Anyway, here's more flight footage, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. So these EMAX props sound pretty similar to a lot of the other ones, the scimitars at 3.5 inches. Pretty quiet. Known for this design is known for being not that noisy, but pretty good power still. Running default everything here. I haven't really touched anything, but this is a pre-production sample, so some things might change. Yeah, they have some strange rates on here. I'll probably take a little bit of adjusting to get used to it, but it's not too bad. It's alright. Don't see any vibrations or anything. There's a little bit of prop wash right there. I think I could probably turn up the camera angle a little bit to get some more speed. Overall, it's pretty smooth. Really can't complain too much about it. 3.5 inches. It's going to be fast if you give it a lot more camera angle. Yeah, the prop wash is actually pretty good. This is the Nebula Pro camera. Now, a little bit of prop wash if you come straight down over your prop wash. Yeah, I think the rates I need to change are on the roll axis. Yeah, it's okay. A little bit of pop wash coming out of this power loops here, you can see. That you can just kind of fly around. Yeah, it's a little hard to fly around that. I'm kind of coming straight down. You need to build up more backwards momentum. Kind of like that. Ooh, a little bit too much. Let's see here, at 14.8 at 4 minutes and 20 seconds. A lot of flight time. Let's see, I think I'm running a 4S850 on this. Pretty big battery. Probably get a little more agility if you go down to like a 650 and not sacrifice too much flight time. But they told me that this pit tune is optimized for the weight of a Force 850. Doesn't quite build up enough speed on those split S's. Because I don't have quite the right camera angle for freestyle. Still at 14.6, well, 6 minutes of flight time. Kind of ridiculous. Alright, so I'm at 7 minutes of flight time, 14.4 volts. This is super efficient. Yeah, 8-9 minutes should be doable if you're just cruising around on this setup here. I'm going to go ahead and call it. Let me know what you guys think.